Hello Saber fans. Today I've got something a little different for you. I want to do a review of this lightsaber that I got from Crimson Dawn Sabers. I really like this saber, and for the price it is amazing. There are a ton of features on this. This is the Neopixel Dark Dragoon. So it is a Neopixel blade, so there are LEDs all up the blade. It is thick-walled, so you can duel with it, but me personally, I'm not going to, just because, you know, the strings can still break, and there's, you know, pins down in here. So, you know, this is more of a show blade, but, you know, a little bit of light sparring is not going to be an issue. One of the reasons why I picked this particular saber was the length. So they have a few other Neopixel blades that only have a few sections. So one of the cool things about Crimson Dawn sabers is that they have this core, which has a chassis in the inside with either the LED or, in this case, the Neopixel pins, the battery, the soundboard, the speaker at the bottom. And that section will attach to a grip section, which you can detach, pommel. In this case, there's an extension, and then the emitter. And this extension is why I picked this particular saber, because it gives it a better balance point. So if I take, you know, as you can see, I can take this off. So you see there's the Neopixel pins. And then this is the extension. So I could take this completely out. I could take the pins out here, push the blade up, and then I could actually put those two there. But it makes a very short saber, which, if that's what you want, that's fantastic. But for me, especially with this blade being pretty heavy, you know, this blade is naturally going to be heavier than an in-hilt LED saber, which is just the empty tube with the fusion film. Because there's actually some electronics in here, it's going to be a little heavier. So in order to get the balance point right where I wanted it to be, I went ahead and got this with the extension. Now, they do have a couple of different options on the website. So they have this in both black and silver. They do have other hilts as well, but if you're looking at the Dragoon, you can either get the regular Dragoon, the Dark Dragoon, and then they have a Lancer version of either. And the Lancer version has the extension. It's pre-built here, and it just has some grooves, so you can leave it that way, or you can switch it. All of this is modular. You can kind of move things around, which is great. A lot of their sabers are like that. This had windows in here. I wanted to get the Lancer, but it was out of stock at the time. They had plenty of stock in this. And what I've done is, you know, since this is where I'm going to have my hand, I didn't really want windows there. It just didn't make sense to me. Didn't feel comfortable. So I put just some poster board around them and then some electrical tape. And as you can see, it keeps the finish pretty well. And it creates this kind of bulge area here, which fits perfectly in my hand and kind of creates a choke point. So that, and then the little bits of silver, are some modifications that I made to this personally. I'm never a fan of completely solid colored hilts, whether it be all black or all silver. That to me just doesn't have personality. That's kind of like a blank canvas that is just waiting for you to add a little personal touches. So, you know, the bulge section wrap here, the little silver accents, that to me gives this a little bit more character. But I also chose this because I like the pommel. Crimson Dawn does have pommels that are double threaded, so you don't ever need to buy a coupler for those particular models. You can just get two, either the Banshee or the Shade. They come with those pommels. You can just get two of them or one of each and just couple them. You don't have to buy a separate coupler. So that's pretty awesome. I also like this double flanged emitter with the windows. I think that gives a lot more character as well. And then, of course, this grip section here for your offhand. That's where you're going to operate the switch. So aesthetics of the hilt, I'm really enamored with. I really like that. They also have plenty of retention screw slots, so this blade is in there really well. So I'm not going to go over a full detail of the features. There are plenty of other YouTube videos that will discuss kind of what the features of their soundboard, and, you know, all of their sabers are RGB, so you can change to whatever color you want. You never have to choose the color. They have the EFX sabers, which are just in-hilt LED. Yeah, so if you're planning on doing a little bit more heavy dueling and you don't really want to risk that blade, I would recommend sticking with the EFX. Then they have Profi board Neopixel, which has things like smooth swing, so the sound is very, very responsive. It allows you, I think, to program more effects. But this saber is kind of right in the middle. This is just the regular Neopixel, and what I like about it was the cost. It was, I think it's normally $250, but it was on sale for $200. And for all of the features such as sound, color changing, the illuminated switch, the lithium-ion battery, all of that stuff, if you go to other companies, is going to probably cost you about twice that. And that's not even giving you a Neopixel. So if this is something that is for your first lightsaber, I absolutely recommend this. If you're not going to do a lot of heavy dueling, and not just this saber in general, but their Neopixel line. If you really want all those extra features and programmable and all that, and the smooth swing, definitely get the Profi board. That's going to cost a little bit extra. But I like that this was right in between the EFX and the Profi board in terms of cost and features. So let's go over some of that. So this is in hibernation mode, which means it's not draining the battery very often. You can see the switch is not illuminated yet, so we have to wake it up. So let's just hold this for 3 seconds, and it says power on. And what's nice is that it will keep your settings for like your sound fonts. You can actually turn it to different sounds. So I have it on loud sound. If I hold this for 1 pulse and let go, it says softer sound. So it has volume controls. You can have loud, soft, or no sound at all. The one complaint that I have, well, there's a couple complaints, but I'll address those here in a minute. So the blade never remembers the color that you set it to when it's in hibernation mode. So once it's awake, it should, but when we turn it on, it stays white. White is one of my least favorite lightsaber colors because it just looks like it's a fluorescent light tube that you're carrying around. It's cool that characters like Ahsoka Tano have that color, but it's my least favorite. So every time you wake up the saber, you're going to have to reprogram it. So all you do is hold for 2 pulses, and then hold and just press and hold, and it will begin to change colors. So one of the things that I've noticed, so the blues, the reds, and the greens are very bright, very crisp, but the mixed colors like purples, oranges, yellows, they're not as... they're hard to capture because, as you saw, it stayed on blue for a little longer, stayed on red for a little longer, stayed on green for a little longer, but as it transitioned between those three, it did kind of linger, or it didn't linger quite enough to capture just that exact color purple that you might want. So you might take a couple tries to do that. And what I've noticed is very, very faintly on those mixed colors, like if it's yellow, and I can't capture that on camera very well, but you might see like a spot that's a little more red, a spot that's a little bit more green, but overall it's fairly even. But just be aware of that. If you want to avoid stuff like that, I would recommend the Profi. The other complaint that I have is that I expected this tip to be much brighter, but as you can see, it's very dull. I've heard that the Profi does have an LED, and it's better at illuminating that light. But in comparison to an in-hilt LED lightsaber that's just a hollow tube that will have a mirror down here, it's potato. It's, you're going to get that dead spot either way. But the nice thing about this is that it's a smooth transition. So it just slowly fades. Whereas those mirror tips, there's a very definite line. You can see the seam. So the tip stands out a little bit more. What I really do like, though, even though that was kind of a slight complaint, I had a different expectation of that. I emailed them to say, well, did I have a blown LED here? Was there something wrong? And they got back to me immediately, like within the next 30 minutes. So customer service on Crimson Dawn is outstanding. So I did want to just point that out. If you have questions on that once you get your saber, definitely reach out to them. So like I said, I'm not going to go over all the features. I just wanted to show you guys. So when you're scrolling through the colors, when you do pick the color, you just want to tap it once. It'll give you the flash on clash, which comes on all their sabers standard, by the way. And that will set your color. But it does have flash. The swing is pretty responsive, so like I said, the Profi board has the smooth swing, which is absolutely the most responsive. I've not experienced that in real life, but honestly, I feel like this is fairly good. That was just my review. I definitely think that I will be a return customer with Crimson Dawn, and I wanted to give you guys this review. Again, this saber cost half what I would get at other sabers and not even get a Neopixel. So this was definitely an excellent budget saber. I highly recommend it, and I hope you guys enjoyed my review.